So we're starting a new segment today. I am your host, Mr. Noir, and today you're going to be walking a mile in my shoes. Today's topic is all about that cardio and my cardio journey. So we're going to start the treadmill now because we're going to walk a mile in my shoes. So we're at 2 miles an hour and I am recording the screen so that you guys can see what I'm talking about, walking at 2 miles an hour. So we're going to walk this whole journey in 30 minutes. So to begin, I am having some cardiovascular issues. And specifically, as you may already know, I am suffering from atrial fibrillation. No longer. I got that repaired. And so I'm going to lead you through the whole process. About 10 years ago, at this point, I was living in Los Angeles, going to work, and I was leaving the metro station in West Hollywood, and I was going down the stairs headed to my office, and I was not in the best shape, but I noticed that I was suddenly short of breath, and I didn't know why. And it had never happened before, but I was just exhausted on my way to work, and I started sweating, and I took a minute to catch my breath and sit down, and I was very confused. And so I went to work after I recuperated and everything was fine. And that was the first indication I had that something was not quite the way it was supposed to be. Now, to be fair, I was a consistent and overusing caffeine enthusiast. Every day I would have a cup of coffee, or if I didn't want the sugar, I would just have a caffeine pill, no-dose. And so I started taking no-dose, not obsessively, not abusively, but certainly every single day. And I felt good, I felt energized, and I felt like I had the energy required to do everything I needed to do. So going forward, I didn't have any further issues for another few years. And I noticed that as I got less and less healthy, these symptoms started going higher and higher. And I noticed my heart was racing more often than not. And I was fine with it. I mean, I didn't think anything but, oh boy, I took too much caffeine today. And so I slowed down on that and I noticed some improvement. I figured, all right, maybe I'm just too fat. I was like 200 pounds. So I decided to get in shape, lose some weight, got down probably like 190, and things were much better. So as the years go by, we wind up leaving California. I left California and came back to Arizona with my family because I was on a remote assignment. And I come home and everything is good and we're living a pretty good life. But I'm still not getting into the right shape and I'm still eating any old way. Lots of fried foods, lots of dairy, everything I shouldn't have been eating, and just not really caring about the internal health of my heart. So things are fine for a long time and I'm kind of doing these peaks and valleys of fitness and not very consistent. And I noticed that my heart is not beating in the normal sinus rhythm that it's supposed to. And I don't think much of it. I just think it's fine. My heart is not hurting me. And fortunately, it really fortunately coincided with my wife introducing me to turmeric, because I did not know that I had atrial fibrillation. And so in hindsight, I had heard that once you have that, it's a much greater possibility that you'll have some type of stroke because your heart isn't pumping the blood the way it should. It forms clots, and those clots travel and go to your brain. So I had been taking turmeric in pill form for the longest time, and I didn't have any issues because my blood was so thin because of the turmeric. So as it so happens, this was not a detriment to my physicality, but my bad lifestyle habits were really what were throwing me off. So what winds up happening is we moved to Hawaii in 2016, and things are great. We love the lifestyle, we love the people, we love the location. It's paradise. And I was still working very hard, probably more than I should have, because from a stress perspective, it was a stressful lifestyle, because I was working remotely, working 3 hours behind the rest of the country, and it was a challenge. I was making good money, but then it started to get a little bit more sporadic, and it wasn't always as easy to make rent, which by proxy increased my stress level. So again, I'm not taking care of my physical needs, as I am trying to make sure that we've got money coming into the house. It was fine for a while, and then I noticed that my heart was not acting the way it was supposed to. More atrial fibrillation, or AFib, and more stress. And it didn't seem like stress because we were living in paradise, and so we could kind of substitute what we were feeling for the location that we were at. So I wind up going to the hospital because I started noticing some changes in my lifestyle. Things weren't as vigorous as I would have preferred them to be. And I go to the hospital, and my doctor's telling me, you know, you've got AFib. Like, your heart is kind of fluttering all the time. I said, I didn't really know that per se, but it did feel odd, and I felt a little bit more winded and less vigorous as I normally do. And my wife can attest to that. So, out of shape, not really realizing it. I wasn't grossly overweight, but I was a little more puffy in the face, and you could tell that I probably wasn't taking my fitness seriously. And to my detriment, it started to affect my daily life, which I didn't care for. So what winds up happening is I go to the doctor and they tell me, you need us to do one of two things. Either a cardioversion, which is where we shock your heart, restart it, and that'll come back later, and then it'll be in a sinus rhythm. Or we could do something called an ablation, where they sear a particular nerve in my heart that is causing it to beat irregularly. And I was less open to that because at the time it seemed like that's a little bit above what I want to do. And even though it was arthroscopic, it was still above and beyond what I wanted to do. So I was also kind of afraid of the cardioversion because of how they phrased it. They definitely implied we are going to stop your heart and then restart it. And for somebody who's had an ongoing relationship with their heart for their whole life, it was something that I was not comfortable with. Wait, you're going to stop my heart and then hopefully restart it? And to be fair, I didn't have a lot of confidence in the Hawaiian medical system. Nothing against the Hawaiians themselves, but our experience with the hospital and the medical staff out there required a lot of hand-holding. It's not that they weren't competent, but you did kind of have to nudge them to get things done. And that coincides with the lifestyle of Hawaii. Things are not usually a rush there. But for me, this was kind of a ongoing, urgent thing that we really needed to address. So I opted not to do either procedure because I really wasn't down with them stopping my heart at all. So I had been progressively getting a little bit worse, and my stress levels were going up because work wasn't coming in, and my fitness really wasn't being taken care of the way it should have been. So I struggle with that, and it gets progressively worse. And I noticed that even more so, I'm not able to perform the way I would ordinarily like. So what winds up happening is the fires in Lahaina forced us to make a quick decision to move back to the mainland. We weren't directly affected by the fires themselves, but our landlord said, I got a deal from a property management company to buy my house, and you guys can stay, but we're going to double your rent to $6,000 a month. And we were like, what? Obviously, $6,000 every 30 days was not a doable scenario especially for that house. I mean, but $6,000 a month is $1 million house. And this house wasn't worth $1 million to begin with. So what winds up happening is we gather up all of our money and we move back to Arizona, which is a different story altogether, quite harrowing. And I will tell you perhaps on the next episode. But we struggled to pull all the money together. We came out to Arizona, found a house, and we've been there ever since. But once we got here, my heart issues, they didn't get exacerbated by anything in particular, but they certainly weren't improving. So a year goes by, and I'm having more issues where easy to lose my breath, just feeling really sluggish. And it just keeps getting worse and worse to the point where I can't even walk through Costco without stopping and holding my chest. Not holding my chest, but like, I really need to stop walking because I feel like I'm gonna collapse or pass out. And that was a hard pill to swallow. So I don't know what I was thinking, but going to the hospital for that hadn't really occurred to me. I'm just a pure man that way. Unless I'm dead or something stops working altogether, I don't want to go to the hospital. But fortunately, and this is going to sound strange, my son got a severe psoriasis issue that took him to the hospital. While we were caring for him and visiting him at the hospital, all of us get COVID. And at first it didn't seem like anything bad. We got a little cold, but then something happened to me in my heart and it really exacerbated. Little did I know I had pneumonia as well. So I have pneumonia, just getting over COVID. And then I realized I can't breathe the way I'm supposed to. I start a coughing fit and the cough just won't stop. And then I can't catch my breath. It was just a challenge. And I took a nebulizer treatment, hoping to get more oxygen into my lungs because it didn't really feel like I was getting enough oxygen. And I couldn't cough anymore to get the mucus out of my lungs. And so we decided, all right, let's go to the hospital. We shoot over to the hospital. They take a look at me. They're like, okay, you've got a couple of issues here. First off, you got COVID. Second, you got pneumonia. Third, you're having heart failure. I'm like, I didn't know it was considered heart failure. It wasn't doing great. It was like a C+, if that, but it was more like a D. So I was failing the schooling of heart health. And so they kept me in the hospital for 5 or 6 days, get me stabilized, get my heart symptoms diagnosed, and they tell me, okay, so you're gonna need procedures now. You've escalated the problem to the point where we have to help you. And I'm like, okay, well, just get me straightened out now and I'll think it over. And so after the 5 or 6 days in the hospital, they let me out. I go home and everything feels much better. I'm not saying my heart was in great rhythm, but I felt much better. So whatever treatment they had given me to resolve the heart issues were taken care of, and they got rid of the COVID and the pneumonia, and they let me go home. So everything's fine for about a month. And then one day I go upstairs thinking everything's fine, and I cough a couple of times, and something triggers where I'm like just unable to stop coughing. And then I feel my lungs flood again. And having gone through this before, I was a little bit more urgent to go to the hospital. But I went, and it felt like the longest hospital ride. The place is only 12 minutes away, but it felt like a really long time to get there. So we go to the hospital. They make me answer all kinds of Jeopardy questions before they let me into triage. And I answer them as best I can, coughing up oddly colored mucus, because, you know, I've probably stripped the lining of my esophagus or whatever the pipe is from air. It's not my esophagus. What's the name for the pipe for air in your lungs? Trachea, yes. My trachea was blocked up and it's probably stripping. And so they are more urgent to get me into treatment. I did want to go home, to be fair, because it felt like something that I could manage. But they were like, oh no, Mr. Black, you're going to stay here for a few days. We have to get you sorted out. You don't have COVID, but now your cardio condition has reached a point where we have to make some decisions. And so I'm like, okay. I'm in the hospital for 3 or 4 days. My cardiologist comes up to me, great guy, Dr. Patel. I'll throw up his business card. He tells me, you're not doing well, as you can see. You've got an ejection fraction of 25%, which is pretty emergency low. It's supposed to be around 70. Nobody ever really gets to 100 apparently, but 70 is the ideal for a person my age. And I'm like, all right, so what does this mean? He's like, okay, so in 4 days, I want to schedule you for a cardioversion. And I'm like, hang on, tell me more about this procedure, because when I was in Maui, they were telling me they were going to stop my heart and then restart it. He was like, no, that's not what we do. The process is we get you onto the table, we knock you out, we monitor your heart, and on the clench of your heart, we shock it. And so that shock strengthens and resets your sinus rhythm to the point where everything goes back to normal. And I was like, fantastic, that sounds much better than what the Hawaiian doctors were telling me. And he said, but also keep in mind that you've got some pretty significant blockages in your coronary arteries at 75 and 80% for 2 separate arteries. And those aren't going to get any better on their own. It's not like you can wash away the calcified buildup on them. And so what we're going to recommend for you is a double bypass operation. Now, that was not my first choice. There was another option, which was a stent, where they put a sleeve into your artery and it opens up and allows blood to flow through normally. I like that idea much better than having my chest cracked open. And so I told my doctor this. He was like, yeah, that's an option, but I'm not the cardiothoracic surgeon. You really need to ask her about it. And I was like, okay, and I will. So I decided to go ahead and get the cardioversion, which, to be honest, was not an enjoyable process, but it wasn't bad at all. Like, if you find yourself with AFib, getting a cardioversion is the easiest one to do by far. So they rolled me into surgery. 4 days later, I went to the hospital to get treated, and they rolled me into surgery. They give me some drugs to knock me out. I was like very calm, not really worried. I didn't think that my heart was going to turn completely off at this point. And so they were like, okay, get ready. We're going to knock you completely out. I talked to the anesthesiologist and my cardio doctor, and next thing you know, I'm out. And I'm waking up back in my gurney in the triage room. completely unaware that anything happened at all. It was fantastic. And the doctor comes in, checks my pulse, says you're in heart rhythm, or sinus rhythm, and you're completely normal now. I was like, fantastic. So they let me go home. I rest for a day or two. And the first night, I hear my heart beating normally for the first time in years. And I could hear that solid dum, 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 dum. And it felt really nice to have that reset. And coincidentally, things became much more easy for me, even in the bedroom. I was very happy about that. And actually everybody was happy about that. So I'm not listening to you. She had something to chime in about. So things were good. And I went back to the doctor and he's like, your cardioversion went great. You're in sinus rhythm. Your ejection fraction has gone from 25 to 50. And you're doing much better. I was like, fantastic. And he's like, but let's not forget those blockages. We got to get those resolved. I'm like, okay, doc, I will go meet your thoracic surgeon. And we just got back from there a couple days ago. And what she told me was, it wasn't bad, but it was not something I really wanted to hear. So she said, I can do the stents for you, but you're gonna have blood thinners for the rest of your life. You're gonna probably still regrow some cholesterol in your lungs, not your lungs, your arteries and your heart. So it's kind of a temporary fix. However, if we do the bypass and we cut your arteries here and here and take those pieces of artery and put them onto your heart, we can circumvent a lot of the issues that you're currently having, because these are brand new in my body, brand new arteries that will supplement the collapsing arteries that you currently have. And I was like, but you are going to crack open my chest, which is going to suck. And you're actually going to stop my heart, albeit with a supplemental machine, not an incubator. What's it called? I'll just pop that up here, so I'm sure I'll remember it. And so she said, we want to get this done sooner than later. We want to get you back on the road to complete recovery so that you don't have to be on any drugs anymore, which that was probably the biggest part for me. I don't like being on medications. I prefer to just live as a normal human and feel good about my daily life. And so she told me, yes, it's going to hurt and it's going to suck for 3 months total. And by the time you're done, you'll be able to run marathons. You'll be able to do everything that you would have liked to have done before this issue arose. And I was talking to my wife and she was like, yeah, all of these things are going to suck. But my main concern was not having the income during this recuperation process to actually pay my bills. Nothing worse than getting some heart surgery and having the stress of getting kicked out into the street. And I don't know if there's some kind of legal avenue that you can take to forego rent, but I'm not aware of it. My doctor told me that I'm not going to be able to do any kind of work at all. Like, I won't be able to lift more than 10 pounds. I won't be able to go to the store. Basically, I'll be homebound for like 2 months. And in my particular financial situation, that's kind of a heavy lift because I'm the primary breadwinner in my house. And it will cause a significant hardship in terms of our ability to actually pay the bills and pay the rent and make sure the lights stay on and internet. And my job relies on all of those things. So fortunately for me, well, depending on how you look at it, fortunately for me, my sisters created a GoFundMe for me because they understood that My work has been pretty sporadic lately thanks to AI, and it hasn't been easy because as a designer, people can design almost anything with just a single prompt. And obviously that cuts into my good work. So not being able to adequately provide for my family and trying to recuperate from open heart surgery is an unnecessary challenge that I do really not want to face. And so fortunately, they are helping out, and we're trying to gain enough money so that we don't have to worry about paying the bills while I'm recuperating. And that's my main goal. Just get everything taken care of, not stress about money, and by the time I'm done recuperating, hopefully everything will be right with the world, and this pivot that we're currently doing together is going to start paying off. So that was the main part that I was most stressed about. Fortunately, I've been pretty consistent with work these past couple of weeks, and it's really taken a lot of the stress off me, especially in consideration for this procedure that is going to happen exactly a month from now. And it's stressful. I can't lie. It's not something that I want to do, but I understand that I have to do it. And regardless of how it goes, I want to share my experience with you guys as far as I can. And I'm confident that everything will work out, but at the same time, I'd like to take this opportunity to share my journey with you. I don't know who my audience is personally, but if you're in my same age group, I'm 54, and you're going through some atrial fibrillation, or just not in the best health, and your doctor tells you, here's your situation. Hopefully, hearing about my entire process will give you the confidence and security to take the mantle yourself, take care of your situation, and get it resolved. Now, of course, I did screen my doctor a bit. I asked her how many procedures she had done, and she said over 1,000. I was like, all right, 1,000 hearts to fix is pretty good. If it had been like 200, I'd be like, I'd like somebody with a little bit more experience cutting into my only heart. If it was a lung or a liver, well, kidney, I'd be like, 100's fine. Not ideal, but good enough. But 1,000 gives you some credibility. I don't know what her record is in terms of patient recovery, but I'm assuming it's good. Otherwise, she wouldn't be allowed to do so many. So we're getting ready to reach our mile. But I want to thank you guys for sharing this journey with me and being on this path and giving me some comments in relation to whatever you're going through, because if it's cardiovascular or financial or whatever it is, you should be able to share with somebody. I might be able to give you some advice based on my own experience, or you can gather some from the other comments. Yeah, this has been a good episode. I feel really good about the progress I've made. I haven't walked a mile in a long time, especially on this treadmill, and it feels good. It's a nice distraction to be able to talk and walk at the same time and not be... This would have certainly been impossible 2 months ago. Certainly, I would be like... But walking a 2-mile-an-hour mile, pretty good. No excessive heart rate, not a lot of sweating, feel very comfortable, which is all you can ask for. So kindly like and subscribe and share with your friends and put on your notifications and all that jazz. I'm not going to keep you, but you have walked a mile in my shoes, and I really appreciate it. It's about to change from 0.4 or 4 quarters to 1 mile in just a minute. I'm not going to keep you, but suffice it to say, this has been a great first episode for me. I hope you had a good time, and I hope to see you soon. All right, talk to you later. Bye.